She parked her shiny SUV across my garage like it was her private driveway, arms crossed, smirking at me through her sunglasses. "You're not moving this truck today," she said, like she owned the street. My daughter peeked out from the porch, confused, holding her school bag, whispering, "Dad, how are we going to leave?" I kept calm, though my blood boiled. I walked up slowly and asked, "Move your car, now." She laughed and snapped a picture of me with her phone. "This is HOA property. You're not even supposed to park here. I'll call the cops if you touch my vehicle." Her words hit like a punch. HOA property? This was my home, my garage, my land. I had lived here for years, but she stood there like she was judge, jury, and executioner. Then came the moment that twisted everything. She taped a fake notice on my front door, stamped with a false HOA seal, reading, "Violation. Eviction pending." She actually tried to evict me from my own house, right in front of my child. I clenched my fists, but didn't raise my voice. I knew something she didn't. This wasn't just about a blocked garage. She thought she was picking on a regular homeowner, someone who would fold under pressure. But she had no idea who she was messing with. Because while she called the HOA president bragging, "I'll have his truck towed by noon," I was already making a different call, one that would change the entire game. "You'll regret this," I whispered under my breath, watching her sip her iced coffee like she had already won. She didn't know that the next time she saw her SUV, it wouldn't be anywhere near my garage. It would be sitting somewhere that would humiliate her in front of the entire town. When the tow truck she bragged about never showed, her smirk faded. She paced in front of my house, waving her phone, shouting, "You'll be fined for this." "You can't park that truck here." My daughter clutched my arm tighter, whispering, "Dad, is she really allowed to do this?" I crouched down, smiled at her, and said softly, "Sweetheart, trust me, she's the one breaking the rules." Just then, the roar of heavy machinery rolled up the street. Not a tow truck. Bigger, stronger. A massive crane truck pulled into my driveway. The operator stepped out, nodded at me, and said, "Sir, you want me to move that vehicle?" Karen's jaw dropped. "Excuse me, you can't touch my car. That's illegal," she screamed, rushing to block him. I calmly held up a document. It wasn't a fake notice. It was a signed city permit, a clearance I had quietly secured weeks ago when Karen first started harassing my family with parking complaints. The crane lifted her shiny SUV like it was a toy. She shrieked, "Put it down, that's my property. I'll sue you." But her voice cracked as neighbors came outside, filming on their phones. My daughter giggled for the first time that day, watching the SUV dangle in the air. "Where are you taking it?" she asked. I leaned down and whispered, "Somewhere special." Minutes later, the operator followed my instructions, carrying the SUV across town. We didn't stop until we reached the front lawn of City Hall. The mayor's pristine grass never looked so wild, with Karen's SUV planted right in the middle like a monument of arrogance. Crowds gathered, snapping pictures, laughing. Karen arrived breathless, screaming at the mayor himself, "Arrest him! Arrest him now!" But the mayor only looked at me, confused, then at the permit in my hand. His expression shifted when he realized what she had done. Filing fake HOA violations, harassing homeowners, abusing her position. The crowd started murmuring, and for the first time, Karen wasn't in control. She was exposed, and she knew it. Karen's face turned red as the mayor stepped down the City Hall steps, papers in hand. "Ma'am," he said firmly, You can't just block someone's driveway and forge HOA documents. The crowd gasped. Someone yelled from the back, "Yeah, we've all seen her do it." Phones were out, cameras rolling, voices rising. Karen tried to spin it. "He's dangerous. He threatened me. He stole my car." She pointed at me like I was the criminal. The mayor frowned, then looked back at me. "Is that true?" My daughter tugged my sleeve, her eyes wide, waiting for me to speak. I didn't say a word. Instead, I pulled out a small device from my pocket, my security key fob. With one tap, the projector in my truck cab connected to the mayor's portable screen. Footage lit up in front of everyone. Clear video of Karen blocking my garage, slapping the fake notice on my door, even bragging into her phone, "I'll get rid of him if it's the last thing I do." The silence that fell over the crowd was thick. Then laughter erupted, mixed with angry shouts aimed at her. "That's fraud! She's busted!" Karen lunged at me, screaming, "You set me up!" But two real police officers, who had been quietly watching from the crowd, stepped forward and stopped her. One officer said, "Funny, because you called in a report claiming he stole your vehicle. That's a false police report." Her face drained of color. She stammered, I was just trying to keep order in the neighborhood." But nobody was buying it anymore. The mayor turned to me, shaking his head, and whispered just loud enough for the cameras to catch, "This isn't about order. This is about power." And for the first time, Karen realized she was the one standing on the wrong side of it. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to salvage her image. "This is harassment. You people don't understand. I was protecting property values." But the crowd wasn't with her anymore. Neighbors stepped forward, people I had never even spoken to before. One man raised his hand and shouted, "She fined me for having my American flag too low on the pole." Another woman added, "She tried to evict my mother because her wheelchair ramp wasn't aesthetic." The murmurs turned into shouts, the kind of restless anger that spreads when people finally see the truth laid bare. Karen backed away, clutching her purse like a shield. But everywhere she turned, there were eyes full of rage and disgust. My daughter looked up at me, her voice trembling but hopeful. "Dad, are they finally seeing who she really is?" I squeezed her hand and whispered, "They are now." The officers pulled out their notepad, asking Karen to sit down and answer questions. But she snapped, "You can't arrest me. I am the HOA." That line echoed through the crowd, and people burst into laughter. The mayor couldn't help but shake his head. "No, ma'am, you're not the HOA. You're a liability." Karen tried one last, desperate move. She pointed at me again and screamed, "He's not who you think he is. He doesn't even belong here." For a moment, the crowd quieted. She thought she'd thrown me under the bus. But instead of shrinking back, I took a step forward. "Maybe it's time I tell you who I really am," I said, my voice steady. The mayor raised an eyebrow, curious. The officers paused. Even Karen stopped mid-breath, sensing something she hadn't expected. Parentheses. And in that moment, the entire story began to shift in a direction she could never control.